a young lady, a youth, who is the secretary of the youth arm of the ILP. I want to ask you to welcome to the microphone, my friends, Shanaz Khan. Let's hear it for her.
Children, children in the army. No. Children, wake up and stop walking your sleep. Lift your heads up. It's no time to take defeat. If we're not gonna know to bed, we shall slowly push it over. Only the will let it be done. We shall surely push it over. Yeah. Where is the love they sing about so much?
Political leader, Mr. Austin Jack Warner, chairman of the Independent Liberal Party, Rekha Ramjit, deputy political leaders, Sunil Ramjit, Dr. Lena Breton, Joseph Mendez, deputy chairman, Hayden Burrell, specially invited guests, members of the Independent Liberal Party, a pleasant good night. Socialization. Socialization refers to the lifelong process of inheriting and disseminating norms, customs, and ideologies, providing an individual with the skills and habits necessary for participating in his or her own society. As a child, the first kind of socialization we experience or learn comes from our parents. However, upon entering school, we are often re-socialized with the norms and values that prepares us for proper participation in society. Today, after looking at many reports, articles, and internet videos on violence, I asked the following questions. What kind of socialization is taking place in our nation's government schools today? And how is this socialization preparing children to participate in society? I asked the next question. What implementation is being placed by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, to decrease the level of deviance in our nation's schools today? I quote from an article written by Michel Le Bon on November 12, 2014. The reintroduction of truancy and CCTV cameras to monitor every school by mid-December are among the interventions aimed at eradicating school violence and indiscipline. This was the announcement made by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh. The minister also mentioned of the 40 problem schools, 14 were in need of dire attention. I'll repeat this sentence. The minister also mentioned of the 40 problem schools, 14 were in need of dire attention. So what becomes of the next 26 problem schools? Members of the audience, what becomes of the next 26 problem schools? Is the Minister of Education waiting until these schools rank between number 1 and 14 until the schools have the most violence, then to implement CCTV cameras in these schools? Members of the audience, the best part of this announcement made by the Minister of Education is that it came after the killing of a 17-year-old Success Laventil student. Why did the minister wait until the death of this 17-year-old then to implement CCTV cameras in our nation's government schools? Members of the audience, I would like to highlight another article. This article was published by Rhonda Dowlett on Thursday, November 6th, 2014. The title of the article, Sex on the Road Says Neighbors of Carpichaima Schools. In this article, the issues of residents in Friendship Hall Drive and McLeod Street, Chase Village were highlighted. One of the major issues, could you believe this, members of the audience? One of the major issues is that the students of Carpichaima schools were having sexual relations in the yards of the residents in that area. One resident who identified himself as Samuel in the article explained that almost every day the residents experience fights on the streets. He even went on to recommend bringing in the police in the nation's schools and in the roads. Members of the audience, let's look at another article. This article is titled, Helped. Help. It was published by Nalini Silal on Friday, November 7, 2014. In this article, the students of the Kunopia High School pleaded for help from the Minister of Education. Some of the problems raised by the students were being taxed by other colleagues, being bullied, having a shortage of teachers, and even experiencing drug trafficking inside the school's compound. And these members of the audience are just a few issues highlighted. What about the rest of issues in our nation's government schools that are swept under the carpet? What about the rest of issues? Students selling drugs is the title of yet another article by Cecily Assen on Wednesday, October 1st, 2014. A breeding ground for young children. This was the description of the Princestown West Secondary School by the vice principal, Hiralal Ramdat. In the article, the vice principal even went on to appeal for help from the police in dealing with errant students, some of whom he claimed were even working for the drug pushers in Princestown community. The vice principal even made mention that he had arranged for the police officers to come into the school in 2013 to speak to the students who members of staff actually identified as potential criminals. And you know what? The police never came. So in 2014, once again, the vice principal pleaded and reached out for the police for help. Tutor President Devanand Sinnaman stated in an article published on Thursday, 2nd October 2014, that many schools experience problems as that of the Princestown West Secondary School. Do you want to know what are these problems? Members of the audience, these problems are drugs pushers, drug suppliers, and drug dealers. Today I would like to ask the question, was it always this bad? Well, based on a newspaper article published on February 4, 2011, titled Violence Doesn't Really Exist in Our Nation's Schools by Julia Nieves, violence in our schools was not so bad as it is present today. The CAT study, which was performed 2 years ago, indicated that more than 25% of all our nation's schools were violations of disrespect, disruptive behavior, and fighting, while the least were forgery and guns and drug sales. Those were the statistics from the CAT study. The Darisaran study is yet another study which was done on violence and indiscipline, and this study was performed in 20 schools in Trinidad and Tobago. Nation school students fought with weapons. He even claimed that pupils committed serious offenses more often at home than in school. Members of the audience, I have shown you the evidence. Isn't it quite clear that based on the evidence provided today, that school violence have increased significantly in our government schools since Tim Gopi Singh became the Minister of Education. In fact, 3 of the proposed interventions after the death of the 17-year-old school student were mandatory sports in schools and a call for every pupil to participate in sporting events on a weekly basis. But you want to know something, members of the audience? In 2011, the very said minister, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, issued a directive to all principals with immediate effect to cease on the holding of any extracurricular activities, sporting events, and corporate-sponsored events during school hours. Even those who have competition, he went on to mention, that they could manage on a weekend. This information right here in this information is actually provided right here in this article. So why should the proposed intervention of mandatory sports in school and the call for pupils to participate in sporting events on a weekly basis be proposed after the killing of a 17-year-old pupil? I leave you with this question, members of the audience. Could this 17-year-old death have been prevented if proper mechanisms were put in place by the Minister of Education in the government nation schools? Thank you.
Members of the media, supporters, well-wishers of the ILP, those who are listening on www.warnertv.net, and those who are listening on the airwaves, good evening. When I look at what happened yesterday and think that those who assisted to put our political leader in jail thought that we would have been weakened, they have something coming. As the chairman of this evening program said, we got stronger. We are growing strength. Our momentum is building. You should have seen us last night in Grandy. The spirit was there. We could have won an election last night. We could win an election tonight. We will win an election when it's called, when it's due. ILP will win. That's ILP power. But I want to draw a parallel for you with something that happened in 2011 and what happened yesterday. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, I'm talking about Ish and Steve. Were they treated the same way as Mr. Warner did? According to the Trinidad Express, dated November 10th, 2011, Ish Galbaran Singh faces 13 charges. Among those are wire fraud, conspiracy to launder money, and engaging in unlawful money transaction. Steve Ferguson faces 82 charges. 82 charges Steve Ferguson faces. Among those are wire fraud, conspiracy to launder money, and unlawful money transaction. Where are they today? Where are they today? Are they facing the same thing as Mr. Warner? These offenses were allegedly occurred in the U.S., in Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, and elsewhere. The same article referred to Ish and Steve as UNC financiers. I want you to remember that. They are referred to as UNC financiers. And look at the difference in treatment now. The article stated that Justice Ronnie Budu Singh ruled that Ish and Steve should not be extradited to the United States. He said to extradite them will be unjust, oppressive, and unlawful. They are charged or indicted with money transfer, fraud, and corruption. Do you think Mr. Warner will suffer that same fate? Do you think Mr. Warner will be treated the same way? That they will say, Mr. Warner, it is unjust, it is unlawful to extradite Mr. Warner. Do you think so? I say no. In the article on The Guardian, Tuesday, September 11, 2012, QC James Lewis said that there were many errors in Justice Buru Singh's ruling. There were many errors. He pointed out the pages in which some of those errors occurred. And he advised the former Attorney General, Anand Ramlogan, that that ruling should be appealed. He said, appeal the ruling because there are many errors and we have a strong case. Do you think Anand Ramlogan appealed? Anand Ramlogan said, no, they'll get swifter justice in a local court. Where are they now? Where are Ish and Steve? The AG said they will be given swifter justice. And the AG hired QC James Lewis to advise him on what to do next after the extradition was crushed. But he took no advice because he said he is not going to appeal anything. Would Mr. Warner be so lucky? Do you think they will say, don't, if the justice rule and say Mr. Warner should not be extradited, do you think this government would not appeal? I say no, they will appeal. In the Newsday of Wednesday, September 12, 2012, it states that the United States continue to seek the extradition of Ish and Steve. The main reason these men are under indictment in the United States. And the U.S. Embassy also said they are concerned. They are very concerned because they received reports that those cases against Ish and Steve will be dropped. The cases will be dropped. Now, if they go to a court and these cases are dropped, Dr. Keith Rowley said, even if they go to the United States and they are caught, they can plead double jeopardy. That means they cannot be tried for the same crime twice. So therefore, this government is paving the way for Ish and Steve to go free. Right. Their next step for Ish and Steve to go free is Section 34. You all remember Section 34? Yes. Section 34, in the dead of the night, they passed that bill. They didn't pass the bill. They passed Section 34 of an entire bill to free Ish and Steve. Now, Section 34, those who are waiting trial for everyday crime like murder, theft, and so on, that Section 34 will not benefit from that. You know who will benefit from that? Those who are charged with corruption, fraud like wire transfer, and terrorism, like the crimes that Ish and Steve were charged with. Those are the people who will be freed. Ish and Steve. So you see how they put the plan in place for the finances. But I know Mr. Warner financed this party. Mr. Warner financed the UNC. In 2007, in 2010, he financed the internal UNC election of 2010. He financed that for the winners. He financed that election also. When during the 1818, when the UNC MPs did not receive any salaries, Mr. Warner paid them. But you know what the Prime Minister said today? Jack Warner never financed the UNC. The Prime Minister said that today on TV. The Prime Minister never said, Mr. Warner never financed the UNC. You hear lie? Just like the manifesto. Just like the manifesto, they lie. They lie. Now let us look. Now let us compare the treatment of Ish and Steve to the treatment of our political leader, the Honorable Jack Austin Warner. He's still honorable. He's the MP of Chaguanas West. And he will be the MP again.
That's right.
Yesterday, the AG said, by 7 o'clock, the U.S. officials contacted him. Before 11 o'clock, he signed the arrest document. Now, Jack Warner is a member of parliament of this country. He was a former minister. He was a former acting prime minister. Don't you think courtesy should have been extended to him after the signing of that document that tells Mr. Warner, so and so is the case. We have signed an arrest warrant. You can turn in yourself to X, Y, and Z station. No, that was not done. His lawyers had made many calls. They made many calls trying to find out where the arrest document is and where should he go if he has to give himself up. Through the grapevine by 3:30, then they found out where it is, and Mr. Warner was able to turn himself in. But I want to ask you, if the plan was not to tell Mr. Warner what's happening, so when he go to Parliament, they would have arrested him and embarrassed him. Was it that? And when that plan failed, were they planning to go to his office and arrest him? Or were they going to Sani Grande in the Cottage meeting that Mr. Warner was supposed to speak in to arrest him? With this government, you cannot trust them. You cannot trust anything they say because the Prime Minister said Mr. Warner never financed the UNC. You cannot trust them. Don't trust them. I say, based on what is happening to us, we must stand up. Stand up for your rights. If you don't stand up, then you'll fall for anything. Yesterday they took Mr. Warner. We stood up. If you don't stand up, when today they come for your neighbor, and you don't stand up, and the next day they come for your brother or your sister or your parents, and you don't stand up, when they come for you, there will be no one to stand up for you. So stand up for your right. Stand up for the ILP. Put this government out. Let's move forward together. Let's move forward. Let's unite this country, and let us vote them out. ILP forever. Thank you.
I came prepared tonight to speak to you and tell you how a certain superpower invaded Iraq, searching for weapons of mass destruction. Up till today, not a weapon found. But in the words of my political leader, not tonight. I came to tell you how that certain superpower is responsible for the formation of militant and terrorist groups in the Middle East. But guess what? Not tonight. I came to tell you how those same groups that this superpower is responsible for has been killing thousands of women and children in the Middle East. Not tonight. I came to tell you how that same superpower made Muhammad Ali, the boxer. How that same superpower made Paul Robeson, the singer. How that same superpower made Claudia Jones, the founder of Nottingham Carnival. How they made them enemies in their own country. They put Claudia Jones on the communist watch list, ladies and gentlemen. But guess what? Not tonight. And all because they had different ideologies. I came to tell you how that same superpower is against a Muslim nation, Qatar, holding the World Cup in 2022. Yeah. And we all know that sports unites a nation. Sports unites a people. Sports unites a people. Just remember in 2006, when Trinidad and Tobago qualified for the World Cup. The records are there. You go look for yourself. The crime rate was at the lowest. Murders were at the lowest. Why? Because we were in the World Cup. So how come, Mr. Superpower, you don't want the Muslim nations to unite? Come on. But not tonight, people. Not tonight. In light of the attacks on my political leader and the ILP, I've decided to tell you why I'm standing by my leader's side. Honorable political leader, Member of Parliament for Chaguanas West, Mr. Austin Jack Warner, Deputy political leaders, Mr. Sunil Ramjit Singh, Mr. Joseph Menz, Dr. Lena Wolf, Chairman of the ILP, Mr. Rika Ramjit, members of the ILP executive, friends, family, other members of the head table, all residents of Endeavour Road, Trinidad and Tobago, members of the media, good night to you. Good night. Let me tell you why I stand by my leader. You see, I heard of Maurice Marshall. I heard stories of that MP, that PNM minister, Maurice Marshall. And when I heard those stories, my paws raised. When I heard those stories, tears came to my eyes. How Maurice Marshall slaved for the people of Laventille and Port of Spain. I heard stories of Kamaluddin Mohammed. Yes, I heard stories and people said over and over, when you needed help, go to Kamaluddin Mohammed. He will look for a job for you. And I said, yes, that is what an MP is supposed to be. I lived and I grew up close to Eddie Hart. And I knew Eddie Hart before he was an MP. And you could have knocked on Eddie Hart's door at any hour, and Eddie Hart would come out and ask you, what do you need? Be it books, be it a school bag, football gear. And that's why I loved Eddie Hart. But when I saw these makeshift MPs that we've been getting from this government, I said to myself, I'm not voting again. Just like many of you, I wanted nothing to do with politics. But along came Austin Jack Warner. He reminded me of Kamaluddin Mohammed. He reminded me of Eddie Hart. He had the spirit of Maurice Marshall in him, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Warner, he did well in government when he was in the Ministry of National Security. He was excellent in the Ministry of Works. Now that he's out of government, he is doing more than MPs who are in government, ladies and gentlemen. People flock to the Chaguanas West office every single day. On Saturdays, they come there by the hundreds. And all of them come there because Jack gets the job done. He doesn't even ask what party you support or what party you belong to. People flock, yes, people flock to the ILP because we openly accept everyone. We always try to be innovative and dynamic when dealing with issues that affect the country. That's why we got 103,000 votes in the local government elections, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why this government sees us as a threat. Do you feel the runoff bill came by guess? No, the runoff bill was made to sideline the ILP. And we look now at this government, and they are rejoicing. They are silently rejoicing in Mr. Warner's demise. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a government of distraction. So what has Mr. Warner taught us when we are being distracted? Stay focused, people. Stay focused. Stay focused on the issues. Stay focused on prison gate. Stay focused on email gate. Stay focused on the number of deaths in our maternity wards at the public institutions. Come on. Stay focused on those poor Chaguanas farmers that have been thrown off the land so the Prime Minister's billionaire friends could get their land and get contracts. Stay focused. Stay focused on the Auditor General's report. Stay focused on the fact that the Prime Minister slept by the goalposts, and 2 days after, they got a multi-millionaire contract, a multi-million-dollar contract in the energy sector. And I say this again, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Prime Minister, anytime you feel like it, come sleep by me because I want money too. Come sleep by me. I've heard a so-called politician, I've heard a so-called political analyst saying that the party cannot survive with Mr. Warner. Let me tell you quickly, Mr. Analyst, because I said it in Sandy Grande last night. When I was invited to the executive, Mr. Warner sat down with all of us and he said, listen to me, my time here is very short. I'm past 70. I'm giving you all 5 more years. And after that, you, the young ones in the party, must take the party forward. Yes. And I believed him. Mr. Warner believed in succession planning. And let me tell you, as a young person, as a total unknown, it's only in the ILP I would be able to grace the same podium with my political leader. We cannot survive without Mr. Warner. Dr. Eric Williams, God rest his soul, he's the father of the PNM. When he died, did the PNM survive? Yes. Mr. Basdeo Pandey, hailed as the father of the UNC. When he left, did the UNC survive? So when Mr. Warner decides it's time for him to take a rest, aren't we going to survive? Aren't we going to survive? So you keep talking, Mr. Analyst, because you can't deter us. You keep doing what you're doing, Mr. Pollster, not Trickster, because the dailies have shown the ILP is gaining ground, yet you want us to believe that we are insignificant. No way, Mr. Trickster. I say no way. You keep smiling, Madam PM, and your weak government. But know this, when you touch one member of the ILP, you touch all. And when you touch Mr. Warner, you just awoke a sleeping giant. What you thought would divide us and weaken us just made us 10 times stronger. Mr. Warner, you embody the character of a true warrior, Mr. Warner. A true warrior. And I would rather stand by your side and fight than with an army of thousands. You believed in me when everybody else didn't, Mr. Warner. And that's why I'm staying with the ILP.
That's right!
And that's why I'm sure you're staying with the ILP. Thank you.
Is Mr. Jack Warner going to come to the meeting? More than one question. Is Mr. Jack Warner, are you all still having the meeting? Haven't you all been disbanded because Mr. Jack Warner not here? And I say for your information, Mr. Jack Warner called me as soon as he was out of there, a place he was not supposed to be, and he said, Ramjit, reserve my spot. I'll be speaking at 8:30.
Yeah!
That is the nature of the man. He like a cork. You can't keep him down. You could try to sink him how much you want. He will float right back up. And the rest of the ILP and those who are going to join the ILP will be floating with him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was present for all of the shenanigans yesterday. And I just want to bring clarity so you shall have no more questions when you leave here tonight. And this is for listening audience as well. We first became aware that something was happening around 5:30 a.m. But from the lips of the AG, with a smirk on his face, somebody had written it for him, because I'm sure he couldn't figure that out himself. He says, well, look, U.S. officials were here by 9 o'clock. Then at around 11, he says, well, you know, I have signed the application for the extradition. The ink, he didn't say this, but this is what he did. He wanted the ink to dry so fast that he blew on it several times. He could not wait to have it done. We are listening to this. By 12 o'clock, the Attorney General of this country had retained his legal team, and up to now, they tell Jack Warner nothing. Up to now. And I want all you to understand who the legal team was. Pamela Elder, Senior Counsel, that's fine. Excellent criminal attorney. I respect her, but I want you to hear the rest of the names. Gerald Ramdeen of Prison Gate fame, the $15 million attorney. Jagdev Singh, the $7 million attorney. Netram Kaulesa, the man in Central Authority who write a check for $1.something million to a company. When you go onto the address, it was a vacant lot. Alai? Nigel Alai? These were the attorneys that were retained for this matter, and still they didn't tell Mr. Warner nothing. Not a word. We got wind of the fact because Mr. Warner was preparing to go to Parliament as usual. We got wind of the fact that they coming for him on his way to Parliament. We said, no, Mr. Warner. We are not afraid of this. This is an aberration. We will take you there. But now, we don't know where the warrant is. So we had to make several calls. We were finally told where it was. Mr. Warner was taken with his attorneys, went with him. It was executed. It was executed, and that would have been shortly after 2 p.m. I want all you to understand how this thing works, It was designed and manipulated to make sure that Mr. Warner spends a night at the guest of the state, as if he asked to spend a night as the guest of the state. In any event, he was brought to the magistrate's court at about 3:45 yesterday afternoon. At about 4:45. I was there. The proceedings was completed around 4:20. I was there. Now, what I want all you to understand, what all your money paying for, all your money paying for, this team of 5 lawyers, for what a law student, Richard, could do, a bail application. It was a bail application, and this is how it went. Attorney at law for Mr. Warner would have stood up and said, well, we make an application for bail, and these are the things to his credit, and we are asking that he be granted bail. And senior counsel stands up and says, no objection. That was what we pay 5 lawyers for. No objection. Except to make sure the bail is equivalent to the seriousness of the offenses, which we had no problem with. I did not have a problem with that. Nobody should have a problem with that. But hear what? I know, and you know, and everyone in the justice system knows that on occasion, the system will accommodate a late hearing as that, and bail could be granted. But hear what the response was. And I am not blaming anybody, But hear what the response was from the chief clerk. She says, when we went down to secure the bail now, because at that time we started putting things into place, we were told the office closes at 4 p.m. We cannot clear the deeds. You know how many people just get it? I am sure I have lawyers in the audience here. You know how many people just get a deed cleared after 4 p.m.? All you had to do was make a call and put somebody on hold. You all remember when they sent the 12 Africans back at midnight? How they do that? The justice system didn't shut down then at 4 o'clock? No. The justice system accommodate Anand Ram Logan and his band of whatever they want to call themselves to do that. You understand? But yesterday, system shut down at 4. No problem. My own personal opinion, because I was asked today, somebody asked me how Mr. Warner feeling about spending the night. I said, I'm not in his mind. You want to ask me how I feel? I'm going to tell you that. Ask Mr. Warner, but hear what? They took his phone as they have a right to do. Mr. Warner might have had a good night's sleep for a long time. Nobody bothering him. So when he came out today, they want to know, what are his spirits like? I say, I only know Mr. Warner say business as usual. Make sure you reserve my slot. Do not give away my slot. Ramjet is speaking at 8:30, and he will be here to speak to you. Now, I want to explain something. And the phone was ringing off. You can hear the questions. Well, do you think that it is ethical for him to go up as a candidate? Well, hear this, people. I am giving it to you live and direct. In this country, there have been so many malicious prosecution cases that have been won by the applicants that you will be surprised. And what that means is that a man or a woman was arrested without reasonable cause, and when they went to the High Court, they won their case. Does that mean, I asked the interviewer, I said, does that mean that because the U.S. decided to send something down here, does that mean that Mr. Warner should put his life on hold? No. In the event that you find something, suppose it's a setup. I'm not saying it was, I'm just saying supposing. Suppose it was a setup. You want to deny him the right that every citizen of this country has? Under Section 48 of our Constitution, it says that every single citizen of this country, 18 years old and above, may present themselves as a candidate for election. The only thing that prevents you is if you are a bankrupt, and he isn't. Right, people? If he has a conviction and he doesn't, right? It says nothing about somebody arresting you on a provisional warrant. People, and I want to say something. My friend Amarnath talked about the length of time Stephen Ishgal running before the court. Since 2005. So we must put this country on hold, deny this country the benefit of the leadership of Mr. Jack Warner, just because somebody sent a provisional warrant. And let me tell you what has to happen, in case you don't understand. Because I want to tell you, the newspaper don't always tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but tonight I'm telling you that. The reason why the runoff bill has not been put into action is because the Independent Liberal Party and two of its members, Mitchell and Francois, take this government to court. Not only did we take the government to court, we were brave enough to appeal their decision. And we were about to go to the Privy Council, which we have the right to do. But then we realized, you know what? You know what? The UNC is in such a mess that they realize even the runoff can't help them. So they're debating it again. Then 2 weeks ago, I hear Prakash Ramada. I want to give all a little joke about him, but just now. Prakash Ramada saying, oh, we will be debating the bill. Well, hear me tonight, Trinidad and Tobago. I say to Prakash Ramada, bring it on. Bring it on. We will be ready for you. And the same two men, Francois and Mitchell, have informed me that we're taking it all the way. That runoff will never become part of the law of this country. You will have your right to vote as given to you under the Constitution for a party of your choice. Nobody can force you to vote for nobody. Them days done. We're in a new time. You have a right to vote for any party that you want. And nobody can tell you there is a wasted vote. Because when you vote for a party, you express your belief in their policies. Don't let nobody tell you, don't believe in what your heart tells you that you should believe in. But I promise you a little joke about Prakash. And I'm going to give you the joke now. I stand up, I sit down. I know Mr. Ramana is a criminal attorney and I practice in the same arena. But probably I'm not as bright as him. Maybe that is it, I don't know. But I hear Mr. Ramada saying, well, you know, we are going to do something. We are going to introduce cash bail. I'm like, but we always doing that. We're doing that all the time. Read the law. Go back and read the law. He no promising. The other day he promised something that was already law as well, you know. He always promising something that is already law. Mr. Prakash Ramada needs to take time of that outside of that cabinet of parasites. Sorry, is that the correct word? Yeah? Oh, cabal, not cabal. Right. Of parasites. And read the law. Because just now, he had to go right back into the law office. He is going to be removed from his present place. And he will have to learn the law all over again. Queen's Counsel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me just bring this to your attention. Of all those people who have been calling, they have one thing on their mind as the analysts. Will Mr. Jack Warner, if he's no longer political leader of the party, will the party die? Tonight I say to you, I don't have to answer that. You just have to look around. In spite of what people feel, your presence here tonight not only demonstrates your support for Mr. Warner and the Independent Liberal Party, but you are feeling the change. The change is in the air. That's it. And I want to tell all you something else that one of my friends just pointed out there. You see this crowd tonight? Or you see any Maxi lineup? No Maxi. Or you see any PTSC bus? No bus. People are here. People, you are here because you want to be here. You are here because you are going to be part of this movement. I want to just tell you something here again. Let me just say to you that for too long in this country, over 40 years, we practiced seesaw politics. Let me tell you what I mean by seesaw politics. PNM, UNC. One down, one up. The next 5 years, one down, one up. Seesaw politics. And the run-off bill was designed to ensure that no other party get on that seesaw. They want to ride high all the time. And every year, every 5 years, one party sitting down and waiting for their turn to ride high. I say to you, it is about time that this country and you start to vote on issues and policies. I say to you that it is about time in this country that we say do not refer to us as the third political party. We are a political party with equal rights to be here. We are a political party with equal and greater force coming into being. We don't want to grade parties in this country. We treat everybody's right to join a political force of their choice equally. This party is about equity. And when we talk about equity, we're not talking about giving a few people contracts. We're talking about dealing with the mainstream and typical ordinary man in this country equally and equitably. I want to just point out, in case you haven't heard this before, I want to point out to you tonight that when Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Prime Minister of this country, being advised by the little boys and girls who form part of her cabal, get up on a stage and catch her vaps and say to you all, are going to give 30,000 people lot, she lie. She lie. I'll tell you why. Since 1998, the law is in place to deal with the landless. And from that time to now, I understand, she handed out 7,000 certificates of comfort and 70 leases. And she want all, in other words, rather what she said was, please, please, please give me another 5 years and I'll go give all your 30,000 lot. Do not believe her at all. It is not possible. It is a beg and you should recognize it for that. I want to explain certificate of comfort to you all. Certificate of comfort, and a lady called me and it brought it home to me. I was on a program and she said, but here now, I have this certificate of comfort for 17 years. I'm getting old. Suppose something happened to me. What will happen to my children and grandchildren? Well, madam, if you pass on, that's the end of your certificate of comfort. It's personal to you and you alone. It is not something that can be passed on to your estate and your family. So they keep her for 17 years. And there are many like her with a certificate of comfort. With a certificate of comfort. And if she passes on, she has nothing. That lot that they protected her from moving, that does not belong to her family. It does not. We have to change that. The Independent Liberal Party, we don't have to bring no new policy on that, All we have to do is implement the existing laws fairly. I forget the man's name again. Jairam C. Mongal. I listen to him. I listen to Simongal. After Prime Minister makes an announcement, you know what, and she giving out 30,000, you know what Mr. Jairam Simongal had to say about that? Well, we have to do a survey to find out if they're on government land. So she promised 30,000 lots, and she don't even know if the people are on government land. You understand how crazy this is? Do you understand, people, how crazy this is? She promised 30,000 lots to the people between Caranash and Toko, and she don't even know, they don't even know, the government don't even know, Simongal don't even know if they are on state lands to be able to give it to them. So I suppose if the land belonged to Mr. Menz, they could take Mr. Menz's land and give it to them. But worse than that, she has not explained at all the fact that before you get a deed for that land, you will have certain expenses. You will be required to pay what is called a premium, plus all the taxes, plus the cost of the conveyance, etc. That is not explained. When Kamala Prasad Bisesa catch her baps and make that promise, she was lying. She was lying because it cannot be done, and two, because she did not tell you exactly what was going to happen. Well, she was intoxicated with something, maybe power, I don't know. But the point is, do not believe these promises, Trinidad and Tobago. Do not believe these promises. So what has happened so far? What has happened so far is that over the last couple of months, and I want you to cast your mind back. We have been asking, everybody in this country have been asking, please call the election date. I want to bring us back to what happened yesterday. Any of you feel that there's a connection between what happened yesterday and the date not being called? Yes. Any of you feel that because here what you know, Gavin Nicholas, with that smile on his face, reading the script says, well, we have been in discussion with the U.S. government for almost 2 years. And then you have a minister who says, well, look, that is Rambachan, a senior minister who said, well, I knew nothing about that. This is how the lie goes about it. And then you had Hadid. Hadid said, well, yes. Hadid, Hadid, the man who say that Kamala have rats around her. When he was another place and left, he said Kamala was surrounded by rats. He gone and joined the band of rats. Yes? And he come in to say about our Mr. Jack Warner, whose shoes he cannot even polish. Whose shoes he cannot even polish. He's coming to say, well, the news report has Mr. Warner's son has pleaded, and therefore Warner must be connected. People, there is no evidence available of anything. Mr. Warner is innocent, as every one of you if you face the courts, until proven guilty. Except in the minds of the UNC, he guilty until proven innocence. He proven until... I know that there's going to be some excitement. Welcome to Mr. Jack Warner. I want to tell all you something. tonight you have seen a rejuvenation. When have you seen this? And the election date has not even been announced. I want to tell the UNC that the Green Force coming at you. So I know that you have been waiting patiently for Mr. Warner. So thank you very, very much for your attention, and I hand over now to our chairman, Mr. Sunil Ramjit Singh.